welcome. And my name is Anne Joutsenvirta. I'm a pre-conference chair at UXPA International 2025, and I'm here with Jen Romano, who is our conference co-chair, and Sid Chhatani. Uh, so great to have you here, Sid, today. Uh, okay, let's start by hearing a little bit about your career path. Can you take us back when you all started with UX and tell how did you come to this beautiful domain?
Yeah, so I actually am originally from India and I did my undergrad in computer science. So I actually used to be a developer and used to write backend Ruby on Rails code and everything. The transition happened when I was working in an agency and I realized what I care more about is not how well the code works, but what problems we're solving. And that's when the pivot sort of happened for me. So I went to University of Michigan to do my master's in human computer interaction. And that's where I kind of learned the formal skills of like interviewing, surveys, doing the whole research aspect of it, understanding how people work. And from there, I've been working in a bunch of different companies. So I worked in edtech initially, primarily. Then I moved to working for law enforcement and creating software for that domain. Uh, and now I'm back into working at edtech again. I work in a company called Parent Square, where we make software for schools to connect to districts and whatnot. Yeah.
Okay, so the UX field was attracting you because you were interested in problems and solving the problems. Like, tell a little bit more about that. What is the thing that fascinates about the problem solving?
Yeah, I think it's the same engineering sort of mind where you want to solve something, but you want to understand like why do they want it. So understanding the context of where people are coming from, understanding like how they what is their current workflow to then understand like what we can do to improve that process. It's almost like you're the expert who understands technology, but the people
Mm,
who are like teachers or like law enforcement people who are doing their other job as their primary focus don't want to focus on technology. So that's where like we can come in, understand their context, do like I've spent time with police officers in their cars while they
mm,
ride the car just to be in context and understand like what is their mental model, what kind of information they're missing, and how can like technology help provide that to them. And
mm,
that's something that they don't come up with themselves. Like they can't be like, hey, I want this. You only know
mm,
that once you're in that context with them. So yeah, I think
mm,
that curiosity of like knowing why people want the things they want kind of led
mm.
me down that path. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Is that what you are doing right now, or what is up with you? What is going on at the work-wise right now?
Yeah, so I recently joined a new company about it's actually my end of third week.
Mm,
So it's a fairly mid-sized company. I'd say 325 people. The design function is about seven, eight designers.
mm,
So we're in that stage where we're trying to set up those principles, set up like scale the design team a lot more, be more consistent among designers. So
mm,
focus is very much on like how do we set these processes so that we all because communication becomes harder and harder as you scale. Like you just have
mm.
more nodes, more people
Yeah.
to talk to. So we want
Okay.
to do a lot of that async and like make sure that our design principles, our design system principles are we make those
Yeah.
choices once and then we kind of scale them. So that's what we're doing right now at work. And I'm very excited to like talk to teacher or like talk to parents and like district admins to understand like what are their needs from a software that helps them like communicate to teacher because the goal of Parent Square is to make sure that parents are involved in the
Hmm.
students outcome for like better performance, better grades. And it's historically been students whose parents are not as involved, whose grades kind of go
Mm,
up and down. So
mm,
making sure that
mm,
like the parents are involved in that process is like a huge part of like a
mm.
student's learning experience.
Okay. Okay. What are the challenges that you are kind of facing now that you're working with the students, young people who are still minors, and there are some uh, restrictions and ethical considerations when studying these people.
Yeah, so we don't directly work with parents or uh, students. So the persona buyer is different, like a buyer persona is different versus the user persona because that's like a
Hmm.
B2B scale. So the person who's buying is like the superintendent of a school, the chief information officer, the chief technology
Mm,
officer. The people who are using it are heavily teachers, attendance clerks, district admins, and then on the other end is like all the parents or
Mm,
guardians, or if because you might not directly have a parent. So students are actually like not as involved. The goal here is to like not rely on the student to be the communicator between the school and the
mm,
parent, because historically there's like you would be getting like a physical form and then you put that in the
mm,
bag, and if the student forgets to remember, like tell that to their parent, the parent won't know what's happening in the school.
mm,
So here
mm,
the goal very much is to like remove that kind of layer and instead directly
mm,
be able to communicate. So like a parent, if they're concerned about their child, they can
mm,
directly DM a teacher within their working hours. And
mm,
the good like the I'm again, as I said, I'm fairly new to this company, but the one thing I really was impressed is that
mm,
they have translation built into it. So if you're a parent
mhm,
who doesn't speak English as their primary language, the whole interface can be localized to Spanish
mm,
or whatever language you want,
mm,
and all the
mhm,
communication by default is translated. So if the teacher sends the message saying, like, "Hey, your kid has not come to school today," that is translated to like Portuguese, Chinese, French,
mm.
whatever the parent
Oh.
wants, and they can directly like not then they don't feel shy, or they don't feel like they're not included in the process of their kids
Mm,
kind of schooling. So that was kind of
mm,
the primary goal. It's a founder like a founder led company. So our founder was when she had her first child. That's when she kind of like came to this idea and like developed this whole platform, and it
mm,
scaled to about 40% of the districts in US right now. So yeah,
Wow,
mm.
that's
it's
awesome.
huge.
Yeah,
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 sounds super
yeah,
impactful, super important and impactful.
yeah.
Yeah,
And I really,
go ahead. Sorry.
no, go ahead.
No, I mean, historically, like I've been very passionate about like being in places as a person in tech. I feel like we come from I come from a position of privilege, like where because we are allowed to do things just from home versus like teachers and law
Mm,
enforcement
mm,
officers or people who are like nurses or people in the field who are doing the work. So I feel like supporting them is the least we could do as like people
Mm,
working in tech. So yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I really love the kind of the idea that the system is translating from different languages. My younger daughter is primary school teacher, and she always say that there are so many parents who don't speak enough the local language, and often the children may have a lot of issues because they are in this kind of uh, place where they don't the adults can't communicate properly.
mhm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's definitely like a huge pain point, and especially America being so diverse the way it is,
Mm,
not everyone knows every single language that the
mm,
students' parents might want to talk. Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah, 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 yeah. And like you have been for some time in the UX domain. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, what is the kind of like best thing, like in addition of what you told about the problem solving, what is the best thing about this this domain? And what would you say to somebody who wanted to come to this field as a recent graduate or somebody who is switching career?
Yeah, I think this field is very robust and like very dynamic. So like it doesn't I think like knowing there is some core skills you do need to have. Like, yes, like every specialization, there is some sort of like everyone needs some. If you're coming to like, especially
Hmm.
focusing on the design aspects, you need to learn how
Yeah.
these tools work. If you're coming to research, you need to know how these certain techniques work. But I think curiosity is the biggest thing. And especially like if you're coming, suppose from like sales or marketing, where you've been a domain expert, say for a law enforcement agency or for something else, it's easy to transition into design. So I would definitely be like, if you're, as long as you're curious and you're trying to understand and kind of be the champion for what the problems that users have, there is space for you in this place. Like I think you can grow and like even like flourish here, to be honest, as a designer, as long as you can focus on the problems, the problem space, and like share that with others, because not everyone can talk about problems as easily as solutions.
Mm,
Mhm. I love that. I love that you're not deterring them as well. There's so many people who have been in the field who are nervous that, should I jump ship because there's so many people who are looking for a job now. But I agree, you can come in and flourish here. There's plenty of work to go around. It's still a blossoming field, in my opinion. There's still so much growth that we see it. We
mm,
see it happening, right? There's still changes taking place in the field, and there's plenty of room for growth. And plenty of work to go around.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. There's definitely like, yeah, this is like the more difficult time. Like I was, as I said, was job hunting for 2 months. So it was definitely a little more difficult than my last layoff when I had it.
Mhm.
So, but it's I mean, I'm coming from a position of privilege because I've had previous jobs. As a newcomer, it's
Sure.
probably a little more difficult. But I think for them, I would recommend like still making projects, like working with local nonprofits, working with people who need help and like who don't have the resources, because it helps them and you, and it allows you to grow in that role and then have a much more uh, have a portfolio of fields that you feel confident talking about. Because you could do a case study of like redesigning something online, but if you actually help people, you will have that passion and that will show in the interviews and whatnot.
Totally. And the experience of working with clients, right? It's like
Exactly.
actually working with someone. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah.
Having
And this,
just, oh, sorry, go ahead, Ann.
go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask another question.
Mm, Go ahead.
Having come off of the job hunt, do you have recommendations for people who are currently looking for a job, who are currently interviewing and applying?
Yeah, I would highly, highly recommend network with people. If you're in a local community like in Denver, we have a Denver Slack group. We have a Denver UX meetup. We are doing events where we can actually talk to people. So like I would highly, highly recommend talking to the people around you, because it will give you more confidence in how this thing works and will help you
Mhm.
connect to these people.
Mm,
Like I have a couple of friends who got a few freelancing jobs here and there, talking to these people, and like if someone needs an extended hand in their company, so it'll help you a lot if you talk to people who are in this field and haven't been in this field. And again, UXPA has a big kind of presence in Seattle. I know about that. So like a lot of places where there is these organizations, happen to those, go to those go to those meetups, talk to other people, because
mm,
there's always opportunity. And but unless you like go and discover it, you might not know.
mm.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pre-pandemic, go back in person.
pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. I think that a lot of these in-person events, local events, they are just starting now. So it took quite a
Mhm.
long time after the
Mhm.
pandemic for people to maybe feel comfortable going uh, in-person events and having those. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I
no,
agree.
there's definitely that transition phase for me as well. Because when we first started, the group was super quiet, and then
Mhm.
going
Mm,
from COVID to like now, where everything feels finally settled down, and we can like be in person at a co-working space and just talk to other designers. So yeah.
mm.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, your talk is about the AI, and there has been a lot of talk about will AI replace UX people? So, what is your kind of before we talk about your topic in general, like what is your kind of thought? Like, are we
Now,
needed as humans?
AI is never going to be able to replace us, just because it just physically cannot have the compute today. Like in the next
Mm,
5, 10, 15 years, if the compute gets that heavy that it can essentially like read 15 books at the same time and give us a response, maybe then it has a chance. But right now, the context window is so small that if you talk, I'm sure you guys have talked to like a chat GPT or LLM, and you
mm,
would probably, as you're talking to it, it'll just start forgetting the context it had like 3 messages ago. That is how narrow the context window is. So
mm,
whenever someone says that AI is going to replace designers, it cannot do in any part of the process. It can assist you in that process, but it will never be able to replace you, because it just doesn't have the same amount of context that you have as a human, that you get talking to people one on one, and
mm,
all the information that our brain condenses. So, yeah, I
mm,
don't see that happening, not in my future at least. But yeah.
Mhm.
mm. Okay,
That was good.
okay.
Definitive no.
Yeah,
Good.
Yeah,
because I've
yeah.
used it so long. It's like initially when you don't, it's a fear, right? Like when you don't use something, you feel that I don't know how valuable or how good is it or bad is it. So
Mm,
you assume that it can do the job. But once you start using and you realize how low level the quality of the output it gets,
mm,
you start realizing that okay, it's not usable. Like I can maybe do some things easier, faster, but
Mhm.
it's not going to replace me as a whole job function altogether.
mm.
Mhm.
Okay, okay, okay. What do you think that where is it kind of best at in design process?
Yeah, so in the design process, I would say like it's good for ideating, it's good for critiquing your own feedback, it's good for getting multiple perspectives that you wouldn't do otherwise. So think of like if you're a designer and you're designing something and you want to quickly get perspective from marketing, sales, and CS.
Mm,
Setting up those meetings, talking to those people is like 5, 10 hours of work. I can do that in 15 minutes in a chat prompt, and that's where I can get like quicker feedback, and it gives me a sense of the direction I should go through. And
mm,
if I feel there is something more to
mm,
dig into, that's where I can like go and like explore more. So
mm,
it doesn't like definitely gives you an answer. Like you can't use it for research. Like I've tried using it for synthetic research, and it's actually bad because as a researcher, it's going to make you bad in your research skills of like asking follow-up questions, actively listening, because it just gives you the chunk of the answer. It's like no interview in my life has been this easy when I ask them a
mm,
question and they give me like a properly three paragraph formatted answer. So I think there's definitely a huge opportunity for humans to
mm,
be involved, but it can be used to like the same synthetic user is good for piloting your questions, right? You can see
mm,
how the AI is responding to tweak your question to
mm.
get more something out of it. So there is definitely opportunity, and it's definitely going to save people time.
Yeah.
But yeah, never on the replacement end from
Hmm.
my perspective for sure. But yeah, it can be used in all stages, like from problem framing to ideation to developer handoff
Mm,
and talking to developers. Because if you don't know what their language is, like you can put in your screenshot of a design and be like, how do I
Hmm.
explain this to a developer in a way they understand? It's great for creating
mm,
metaphors, to explain to your CEOs how a thing works. So it allows
mm,
you to, like, especially as a person who did not grow up with like in America and like doesn't have the same like context references for metaphors, it's really great to like bring and build those. I'm like,
mm,
hey, what's a good metaphor to explain this to a
mm,
person who grew up here? And that's lovely. So yeah, there's
mhm,
a lot of places where I use it in my work. I literally use it every day.
mm,
But I have never felt it like it's if I don't use it, like I'm gonna stop working as a designer. So
Hmm.
yeah.
mm.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay, let's then kind of talk about the UXPA conference, the User Experience Professionals Association's conference. Annual conference is going to be in June 16 to 19 this year in Amsterdam. And you will be teaching the course on June 16 on leveraging AI and large language models to enhance every stage of the design process.
Yeah.
How did you come up with this topic and
Yeah. So that's a very good question, right? So I was actually experimenting AI in each part of my own process. And yes, there is specialized tools like Figma has an AI feature that can make
mm,
designs. There is UX Pilot, there is Lovable, all these tools.
Hmm.
But at each of the stage, like if you see how you use Figma for AI, you have to write a prompt
mm,
all the way any place you see an AI software, the only way to interact with it is a prompt. And if you
mm,
don't know how to use a prompt or get the most out of it, you're not going to get a good output. And if you try
mm,
something that is mediocre in terms of like prompt engineering,
mm,
you're going to be like, it doesn't work. It's not good enough. I'm not going to use it anymore. Versus when
mm,
I use something, I might write a much more detailed prompt and the same technology gives me a much better outcome. So the
mm,
question then became like, it's not about individual tools. It's about how we interface with these tools and get the
mm,
most out of them. And that's basically what I'm going to like focus on when I talk about like in the course is going to be like, what are the techniques? What are the prompt engineering techniques?
mhm,
It's like learning how to think critically in a way. Like, how do you think in a way that you can get the most out of using a chat GPT, using Claude, using Gemini to get the
mm,
best output that you're expecting? Because the problem happens, your
mm,
expectation is here and then the
mm,
output you get might be like here, and that
mm,
difference is what makes you feel like the technology is not good enough when it can actually help you, and the output could be at this level as long as you know how to get the right thing out of it.
Hmm.
okay, okay. And if you think about the course, do you think kind of who do you think that it gets best out of the conference, the session that you have?
Yeah, I think anyone who is excited about leveraging AI tools but feels that they don't understand like how they work or why they work the way they do, and they're not
Mm,
sure. So like if someone is using some, for example, like a chat GPT and they're like, hey, I asked it to write survey questions, but it just gave me like a random format. It didn't give
mm,
me the output I was expecting. There is a way you can like create for example, a GPT that can give you a consistent feedback in a consistent format that you're asking. Because that's one thing with AI is that if you ask it one question, it'll give you a different feedback every time. The question then becomes, how do you leverage that technology to get a consistent set of output? Like if I ask you survey questions, just give me survey questions. Don't tell me about X, Y, Z, and other
Yeah.
information. And that is all happening through prompt engineering today because that's essentially it's a type of an interaction that you have to do now, right? That wasn't existing like 3 years ago. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And what do you think that people will learn then other than like prompting correctly?
But the thing is, like, once you learn how to use prompt correctly, you will start realizing all the places that you can use AI in your process. Because
Mm,
right now you might think like, oh, I can't use AI for in the research process. But if
mm,
I'll probably in the workshop that I have, I'm gonna like give
yeah.
examples of each stage
Yeah.
that show you how like a moderation guide that you might spend like 3 hours creating can now be done in like half an hour instead, with the first
Mm,
draft coming from ChatGPT, and it's customized to your needs. It's not
mm,
like a generic, because that's the thing with LLMs, right? If you don't give it enough context, it's going to give a generic output. And
mm,
how do you give context? Do you give context all of it in the first prompt, or do you want to give it context in the conversation that you have so that it can actually read all of it? Because the way they are designed is that they have like a
mm,
token limit. So it's going to help designers through each part of their process, and
mm,
it's going to make sure that you learn how to leverage it best and to get out of it. Otherwise, even if
mm,
you use something like a Lovable to create a website, you can't do a good job if you don't know how to use it, essentially. So I'm going to
mm.
demo a bunch of those softwares as well in that process.
Yeah. Do you
Awesome.
think that other people than designers would get kind of uh, important insights from the course?
Sorry, what was the question again?
Do you think that other people than designers would get insights from your and learn from the
Yeah.
course?
Essentially, it's like think of it like giving someone the idea to like think critically, so like you can identify like what's real news and fake news. So
Mm,
it's basically that. It's like
mm,
giving you those tools to evaluate for yourself what tools are good or bad, because there's so many tools out there and there's
mm,
new tools every day. And I know
mm,
everyone feels overwhelmed about like how much that is. So I want to give people tools that allow them to like test those tools out, see if they're
mm,
good enough or not, and adapt like if they adapt to their workflows or not, because there's a lot of tools that might not work for you because they just don't adapt for the team's workflow that we have right now. So I think that's what they're going to get. It's like almost like a critical way to think about AI instead of just
mm.
being like going with the hype. If you go with the hype, you're going to say things like Figma UX is dead, Figma is over,
Mm,
when that's not the reality.
Mm,
hmm.
yeah, interesting.
Yeah, this is exciting. I just learned about some of these tools, and I would say, as a non-designer, they were a little bit overwhelming, right? The way I heard about them was you could just easily go in and create a website or create an app. And then I went in and poked around a little, and I was like, "Ooh, it's a little more complicated than just go in and create something quickly." So it's
Yeah.
awesome that you're teaching this course and that you'll be demoing some of these tools that I think are still
Mm,
pretty new to lots of people.
mm,
Yeah, no, definitely. Building has become a lot more easier, but that doesn't mean that you don't need engineers anymore either. It's the same thing, right? It's the same
Right.
conversation every function is having. It's like, how does
mm,
AI impact our
mm,
workflows and our processes?
mm.
Hmm. Yeah,
Awesome.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. I'm really looking forward to this. But what are you looking forward to when joining UXPA conference this year?
What am I looking forward to? I think there's a lot of good talks. I think there's a lot of good talks around the ethics of AI, around the sustainability concerns of AI. And I think those are the aspects we need to talk about more because yes, you can use AI, but how much, like, there's already a study that came out that it impacts critical thinking for people of like when you start
Mm,
using or leveraging AI too much in your workflows,
mhm,
you become less of a critical thinker and you might just go with what the AI says because it's the same expert bias, right? Like that we have in
mm,
other places that we have
mm,
studied in psychology. So like I'm very interested in like people talking about that as a
mhm,
field and like having that discussion on a broader level, because when it's conferences like these that talk about that, that it becomes an open discussion topic. Otherwise, it's all these
mm,
discussions are happening, but they're happening in their silos. But like
mm,
bringing it to the broader stage, I think it's going to be very beneficial for everyone.
Hmm. Hmm.
mm.
Awesome. Well, we're
Yeah,
looking forward to seeing you at the conference. Looking forward to
Yeah.
meeting up in person and having some great conversations.
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm excited to be
definitely.
there too. Yeah.
Yeah. And where can, if people, obviously people can find you in a conference, but if they want to be in touch with you before or after? How can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, I'm very active on LinkedIn because that's become the platform of choice, especially for like professional so like communication. And I post a bunch of videos on how to use AI almost like every other week, talking about the things that I'm learning in using Lovable, using other software. So yeah, if you want to learn, I know if not everyone can make to the conference. So yeah, if you guys want to learn and catch up, that's definitely LinkedIn is the place you can find me and like talk about AI and talk about design and how it can be, what's the future look like.
Awesome.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing all that the
Yeah.
learnings that you have spent hours
A lifetime.
learning about. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's always an experiment. Like life is always changing, tools are always changing, so we're always learning. So yeah, I think that's
That's
like
true.
a healthy mindset to have is like keep learning, keep growing.
Yeah.
And yeah, come to UXPA,
Love it.
Amsterdam, it'll be fun.
Yay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Sid. We'll see you there.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Okay.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.